I know that the whole title of this series is Tea with Me, but I hadn't had coffee today, so I'm actually drinking coffee for this one. Whatever. We'll just have to spill the coffee instead. Hi everyone, it's Emma. I feel like it has been a really long time since I sat down and did a video like this where I wasn't like vlogging or doing a daily reflections. I'm so happy to be doing this. I started this series months and months ago, and I haven't made a second one since I made the very first one. The very first one was about moving to New York. Now a lot has changed since I made that video, so if you go watch that video, you're gonna be like, Emma, why haven't you moved to New York yet? And there are answers for that, which I'm not going to be talking about in this video. Basically, this is a series that I'm titling Tea with Me, and it is where I'm going to be talking about the more personal things that I would like to talk about on my channel. I so often get questions from you guys about all kinds of things like my past struggles with chronic illness or anxiety or what I want to do with my life or how I make YouTube videos, and sometimes I answer those questions by making those chatty makeup videos, and sometimes I turn them into a bit of a bigger video, which is what these Tea with Me videos are. So the topic for this video is going to be anxiety. A lot of you guys know that I have struggled with anxiety in the past. I mentioned in a Q&A that I used to struggle with panic attacks on a daily basis. As a teenager, that was a very regular part of my life. It was a very intense struggle. It kept me back from doing a lot of things that I really wanted to do. And I have also mentioned before that I do not so much now in my current life struggle with anxiety. I can't even remember the last time that I had a panic attack. I am now able to order food at restaurants with absolutely no problem. In fact, I actually kind of like it. I like talking to the coffee baristas and choosing what I want at Chipotle. So since I have mentioned this in passing in a bunch of videos, a lot of you guys have lots and lots of questions for me about how I handle my anxiety now, how I handled it in the past, coping mechanisms, and physical exercise and all that kind of stuff. But this is a pretty big topic, so I've put off doing it for a little while. However, that is what I'm going to tackle today. I usually, in general, dislike disclaimers. However, I am going to just say at the beginning of this video that I am not a counselor. I have no degree in psychology or anything like that. Everything that I am talking about here today is just personal to me, what I have found helpful for my personality specifically and my personal struggles. I just wanted to share with you guys the things that I have learned. And this has been a fairly long intro, so let's go! I feel like this is a good one to start with, but a lot of you wanted to know the kind of daily things that I do to manage my anxiety. One of the things that really keeps my anxiety at bay when I'm trying to go about my normal life is to seek beauty in small ways. The ways that I have found to do that is journaling, going for walks, listening to music, taking pictures, singing or dancing. Those kind of small moments of like something that is just pure beauty, for some reason that really centers me. I think journaling and writing were kind of the first one that I found that was really helpful, and I continue to do that to this day. Journaling is like one of my most important forms of self-care. If I'm not journaling, I'm probably not in a healthy mindset, or I'm really busy. Those little things, although they seem kind of unimportant, they actually make a huge difference. So my advice on this kind of thing is to just start really small. Just write one poem, just clean your room, just decorate the walls in your room. Those little points of beauty are really important to me, and I have found calm me and make me feel centered and make me feel present in my current day state. One of you asked, how do you deal with loud people and what is the best way to be heard? First of all, I totally hear you on this. It is so frustrating sometimes to be the quietest person in the room. I'm often the quietest person in the room. I'm an HSP, I'm an introvert. It is not a negative thing inherently. However, that being said, I like to converse. I like to be a part of the conversation, but it can be so difficult to when you are not that kind of person who's gonna just like jump out there or like yell or be loud. I was reminded of this recently because I was in a specific situation where I was in a coffee shop with I don't even know how many people, so many people jammed into this tiny coffee shop. Everyone was under 30 and we were all there to kind of have a discussion on friendships and like maintaining deep friendships. It was like an open discussion led by two people, and I had so much to say. There were so many times when I wanted to chime in, but it was like this large group and it was just so overwhelming, not even because I'm shy or insecure, but just because I'm an HSP, so that kind of setting is going to be overwhelming. In the moment, I did not voice any of the things that I wanted to say. So the first thing that I have to say on that is just be forgiving towards yourself. You are the way that you are for a reason, and your strengths are going to be different than someone else whose strength might be speaking out in a conversation or being the person who kind of draws the most attention in the room. Those people have their strengths and you have your strengths, and one is not better than the other. Be gentle with yourself. Don't be like, oh, why didn't I say anything? But at the same time, let yourself try. Say something, even if you kind of feel embarrassed or if you feel nervous or if you're shaky or whatever, it's okay. I've often found that highly sensitive people or people who are just very introspective or deep thinkers, it can feel like no one wants to hear what you have to say because you're quiet. In my personal experience, when I speak up, people really want to hear what I have to say because I'm usually so quiet. And I think if you value yourself and your voice, I think other people will too. So just give yourself the chance to say something. Just try it out. If you're with your friends or in like a safe setting, the more you do it, the more you get used to it. And yeah, don't put too much pressure on yourself. It's okay. I just realized I don't have any lipstick on. Again. I always do this. I start filming and then I forget to put on lip gloss. I'm gonna put it on. And we're back. What BTS songs and what songs or music in general do you listen to calm down or when you're feeling overwhelmed and anxious? I love BTS songs for when I'm feeling anxious. I think my favorites are 2-3, You Never Walk Alone. There's a song called Let Go that I think is on one of their Japanese albums. And then Newly, Answer Love Myself. I really love that one. Pretty much any of the ones where they're talking about like loving yourself or being kind to yourself, functioning in a healthy state, which BTS have a lot of those songs. I actually just remembered another one, which is called Moving On. It's on Most Beautiful Moments in Life. And that one has like really been a comfort to me because it's kind of about letting yourself move through life, like when things start to change, not being too afraid of the change, and even if it's scary, it's okay. For other music, anything by Billy Martin is kind of my go-to calm down music. Specific songs, I love Live and Lionhearted. Lionhearted is like my highly sensitive person anthem. It just is about like wishing that you had a lion heart, that tendency to feel like, oh, why am I so sensitive? And then Live, I just relate to songs that you should listen to if you want to understand me as a person. Live by Billy Martin is one of them. I also really love listening to Lucy Rose, Intro, and I Can't Change It All. I specifically love those songs. And then probably my most listened to artist for kind of anxious days is Andrew Peterson. I have been listening to Andrew Peterson since I was maybe 16 when I first realized that I had anxiety, and I have gone through periods of my life where I literally exclusively listen to Andrew Peterson music because it is so comforting. The music itself is really beautiful, but his lyrics are just wonderful. Favorite songs are Rest Easy, Day by Day, The Rain Keeps Falling, and Be Kind to Yourself. Love them all. Highly recommend. How do you get through those days when everything is just too much and you feel like you can't do it and you just can't deal with the anxious things? You know, some days just really suck. Sometimes all I need to get through those days that really suck is just to acknowledge that some days really suck and that it's kind of okay. And it's okay if you're in a place where you just can't not be anxious. Don't beat yourself up for being anxious. You already have this struggle of being anxious, so just give yourself some breathing room. On those days where I like really just am overwhelmed, I try to really let go of all expectations that I have for myself. Don't rehearse those things that tend to play out in our minds, like, why am I like this? Why can't I just be happy? Why am I not like a stronger person? Whatever the lie is, whatever the bad story is that you tend to tell about being anxious, those are not true at all. And they're really just adding to your struggle when you already are struggling with something, so just let yourself be. It's okay. And also, remember that everything changes. No matter how you are feeling right now, tomorrow you will feel differently, or in a week you will feel differently, or in a month you will feel differently. Nothing stays the same forever, and I think that's one of the terrible things about anxiety, is that when you're really anxious, it feels like you have always been and you will always be anxious, but neither of those things are true. I don't know where this illustration came from. It is possibly a C.S. Lewis quote, but it is something that I often think of on those days that are just really not fun. It's this idea of being in the night. You're currently in the nighttime, and there's nothing you can really do to make the sun rise faster, but if you train your eyes on the horizon and just wait for the sun to rise, the sun will rise. Almost when you're in the struggle, remember to trust that things will change and trust that things will get better, and that in and of itself helps the struggle before the struggle even changes. How do you find people who are like you or who see the world like you, especially HSPs? To be honest, I'm not quite sure that I have a helpful answer for this question. First of all of my family members, except for my dad, are HSPs. So my brothers and my mom and me are all HSPs. We definitely needed my dad to balance us out. But none of us really understood our personalities until we were older. So I will say that just finding HSPs is not always helpful, but finding people who are very aware of themselves, who are aware of how they view the world and are aware of their personality, that has been like the key. Now, me and my family, we've all gotten more into like personality types, and we've learned more what it means to be a highly sensitive person or to be an introvert versus extrovert. So one of the things that I will say to maybe help you find people is just don't hide yourself. Like, talk about the way that you are, talk about the way that you see the world, be open with the people that you meet and with your friends. If you're talking about those things, chances are someone else who also wants to talk about those things or who relates to you will find you. You'll find each other. I only realized how many people are similar to me when I started making YouTube videos and I started talking about this stuff. And I realized how many of you are INFJs and how many of you are HSPs, and probably how many of you are HSPs and you don't even know that you're an HSP. So anyways, just be open to finding people like you and be open to talking about yourself and talking about the way you see the world, and I bet that you will find some people who relate to you and resonate with you in that way. A lot of you guys asked how I specifically stay so positive or how I seem so peaceful when I do struggle with anxiety. I think it is a misconception that happy people, their happiness comes easily. I am a very positive person because I go to battle for that positivity every single day. I love seeing the world and focusing on the things to be thankful for. I find that I am so much happier in myself when I do that. And I can't do that if I don't engage with my own struggles. I choose every day to make the beauty that I see in the world and the good things that I see in people and the good things that I see in the world louder and more noticeable, and I choose to focus on those things instead of my anxious thoughts. What I don't mean is that I ignore my anxious thoughts, because that doesn't work at all. But I've gotten to the place now where if I'm feeling anxious, I know what to do so that I can move through it. So if I'm anxious, I meditate or I read my Bible or I try to figure out why I'm anxious, what the root is, and only by engaging with that anxiety and engaging with myself in that way, do I actually get through it and then get to a more positive state. The more that I do that, the less often I have to do that. Like, the more that I have worked through my anxiety, the less I get anxious. I think that's just kind of how healing works. I am now a very positive person because I have done so much work. Yeah, I've done a lot of work to try and stay in that mindset, and I encourage you all to do it. I know it's scary. I know it feels absolutely terrible at first. I wrote a poem about that, but I really think it's the only way to like get to be that kind of person who can just like see the good in everything, and that is the kind of person that I would love to be. How do you put yourself out there when you want something, but you're too shy or nervous to ask? Oh, I think that this really came along naturally the more that I've understood myself as a person and how I really function in the world. One of the things that was helpful for me is like if you're asking for something, what is it that you're really scared of? Because sometimes anxiety is actually saying something on a deeper level. So, for example, ordering food at Chipotle or whatever, I am a 1 on the Enneagram, so I am often terrified that I'm going to do something wrong and mess up in some kind of way. Hashtag perfectionism. So I think it is really helpful to figure out what your fear is. Is it fear of rejection? Is it fear that you want to be respected? Is it that you don't think people are safe? Whatever like that underlying thing is, knowing that and like kind of working through that a little bit was what really helped me to be able to put myself out there more. Maybe look into the Enneagram. I do really love the Enneagram for that. I think it's helpful for anxiety as well. What were some of the things that were helpful for you as a kid? This is from my friend Kelly, who says that she needs insight from people who can relate to Judah, her son, who is also an HSP. Honestly, I did not understand my personality, and my family, my parents didn't understand my personality until I was an adult. So I can only really tell you what I know would have been helpful and what has been helpful for me now, like kind of looking back. I think one of the biggest things, any HSP, and maybe especially children, letting them know that they are heard and seen, and that the way they view the world is just as valid and just as cherished as how anyone else views the world. Specifically Judah, this is a little bit easier because he loves to talk, and so just letting him know that he's heard and that like his way of seeing the world is actually a blessing. HSPs have a bigger capacity for compassion and wisdom because of the way that we see the world, and I think for me as a kid I would have loved to hear that. It's something that I have learned now that has been really helpful, but as a kid I didn't realize that I felt like I was less valued as a person in society because I'm a quiet person and because I see the world differently than any main character on a TV show anywhere in the US. Realizing that that quietness and those HSP tendencies are also a strength in addition to a weakness was totally life-changing for me, and I think is something that I would have just loved to hear as a kid, or loved to be communicated to me, not even necessarily like words, but just, you know, being validated. How do you get over bad spells of anxiety/depression? Sometimes that first step of just like trying to get some movement going is the hardest. So for me, what I do is I just try to take any small step, like any form of movement. If you usually like watch TV or read, whatever your form of escapism is, try not doing that for a day. Just try to switch things up just for a small period. For some reason, any form of change really helps things start to move through for me. Try something new, do something new, get out of the space that you've been in for the past week or whatever. Go stare at a new tree or something. Any kind of movement I think is a good thing. But the biggest thing is 100% do not stop doing what you love. Whatever it is that makes your heart sing, you have to do it. As a human, it's your duty. For me, even when I'm like super anxious, sometimes I still film videos or make videos, and sometimes I don't post them. Sometimes I still write and I don't look back at the poetry until I'm not feeling anxious. And sometimes those things that I make are really good. And I'm not fully aware of it while I'm like in that state, but some of those poems have been the ones that have gotten the best reactions from you guys, and it's really, really important for me to like not stop creating even when I feel really anxious. So whatever it is for you that is like that thing, just don't stop doing it even when you don't feel like doing it, even when it doesn't feel good. Does anxiety get in the way of your faith sometimes? A lot of you guys know that I am a Christian, and of course my faith really comes into play with my battle against mental illness. I absolutely do not think in any way whatsoever that my anxiety holds me back from my faith or like inhibits me in any way. I actually think the complete opposite. I feel like everyone has that thing that kind of pulls them closer to God. Whatever that thing is that makes you feel weak, that makes you feel like you can't do it on your own. For me, that has always been my battle with mental illness and also physical illness. in that way, I'm actually ridiculously thankful for this struggle because I'm one of those people who feels like I want to do everything on my own, and that is what gets in the way of my faith and my relationship with Christ. But it's not the anxiety itself, it's me wanting to be self-reliant. When I'm really feeling anxious, I often read this Bible verse, and it is Isaiah 42 verse 16, and it says, "And I will lead the blind in a way that they do not know. In paths that they have not known, I will guide them. I will turn the darkness before them into light, the rough places into level ground. These are the things I do, and I do not forsake them." For me, that's kind of how my mental illness battle has played into my relationship with God, because it's something that is pretty scary and is hard to navigate, and so it makes me have to have more faith in Him that He's guiding me, that He has me in His hands, and that I am safe even when I feel anxious. Okay. Switching gears completely. Exercises, yoga, etc. that you can do inside to help. I 100% have to be working out. It is like so important for managing anxiety, but I also really don't like intense workout stuff. Like, I don't like weights at all. I avoid using them at all costs. I don't even know why, I just really dislike it. So I often go running. For me, running is so therapeutic. If I'm anxious, sometimes if I just go running, literally I'm not anxious anymore afterwards. I know there's like physical scientific reasons for all of that, but recently I had a neck injury, so I'm not currently able to run. So I started doing these bar 3 workouts. I think I talked about it in a vlog. Was it the self-care vlog that I did? Bar 3 is like an online website, and it's like a combination of yoga, ballet, and meditation. I love it so much. You can kind of pick the level of intensity that you want. So sometimes I'll do like a full body workout and be very, very sore for a lot of days afterwards. But you can also do ones that are just like 10 minutes and it's more stretching or breathing. And I have found them to be great. The perfect workout situation. I'm loving it so much. I also do meditation. That is one of the first ways that I learned how to manage my anxiety. I will link down below some of the specific ones that I use. I think a couple of them you do have to buy the set, but I actually love the app Headspace. It's like one of the most popular meditation kind of apps. It's one that you're supposed to do every day, but I don't do it every day, and I totally recommend it. I think it's great. If I go through a period where I'm like more anxious, or even if I'm just in a stressful part of life, I'll like amp it up and do it more often to try and manage things. Do you ever feel guilty about reaching out to people? I feel guilty about pretty much everything in life. Yeah. I'm a type 1 Enneagram, which means that I have a constant inner critic in my head policing everything I do in life. So because of that, I have really learned in recent years that tendency to like worry about what other people think above your own needs is not actually loving. I think in my mind growing up, I thought that that was loving. To like sacrifice your own personal needs and feel guilty for taking care of yourself. I think it's easy to feel guilty for like not being extroverted or not talking to your friends more or whatever. But I encourage you, and I remind myself of this all the time, you really will be able to be more loving to other people if you take care of yourself first and you care for your mental health and you learn more about yourself and your personality and how you work and how you can interact with people. I have this mentor who is very, very wise and who likes to tell me that what is good for you is ultimately good for other people as well. What that doesn't mean is that doing what's good for you will make everyone else happy, but other people's happiness is not in your hands or your control anyways. The idea behind that is like if you take care of yourself, that's actually better for other people, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're probably going to get more anxious and then probably be less able to be good friends with other people. It's good to be honest with yourself, it's good to be honest with other people, and they just got to deal with it. I think this is going to be the last question that I'm going to do. I've been filming for almost an hour now. But the question is, how do you deal with new and loud places? For example, school. You just started college and it is the worst. First of all, I am so proud of you, whoever you are, whatever your name is, that you are going to college, that you're going anyways, even though it's overwhelming. I think that it is amazing that you are expanding yourself that way. Sometimes it is helpful when in a situation like that to just acknowledge that you are overwhelmed and that you're going to be overwhelmed. If I'm going into a big social setting, like for example, BookCon and Book Expo every year, it is overwhelming for me. I do get exhausted. And I think knowing that ahead of time, and then when I get overwhelmed, just acknowledging that I'm overwhelmed and being like, it's okay, I'm overwhelmed, but that doesn't mean I'm not safe. I'm overwhelmed, but that doesn't mean I can't have fun. You have everything that you need in yourself to be okay and to do well in your schoolwork, even though you're overwhelmed and you're in this place where there's probably a bajillion people. Be mindful, take breaks, be alone, give yourself alone time, take lots of deep breaths, remind yourself that you are safe, you are loved, and you're perfectly okay even when you are overwhelmed. I've found that I grow most when I allow myself to go into those situations where I feel like I'm being stretched. Try not to panic in response to how you feel. It's okay how you feel. However you feel, it's okay. You have all the permission to feel all the feelings and to still be okay and to still move forward and to still go into that situation. There's this poet that I really love named Morgan Harper Nichols. I will link her Instagram down below. She has a lot of quotes that like remind me of that kind of thing, of just like being kind to yourself no matter what situation you are in, no matter how you feel. So yes, find the balance between being loving to yourself, being kind to yourself, being patient to yourself, and still letting yourself go into those situations where you are giving yourself the opportunity to grow. Don't be scared. You're doing wonderfully. I'm sure of it. I know you're doing great. I'm glad I drank coffee because I definitely needed it. That was a really long filming session. That is everything that I'm going to cover in this chit chat today about anxiety. I hope that it was helpful for all of you out there who are introverts, who are HSPs, who struggle with anxiety, who struggle with depression. You are not alone. I'm right here. I have the same struggles and I live a perfectly happy life. I love my life. I love my personality. Don't beat up on yourself. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you're having a lovely day or night or afternoon, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, however you are feeling, and I will see you in my next video.